H2 at Hot Takes Live. I am so happy to introduce Jason Reichl, a good friend and a colleague. We've worked together in the past after forming some bonds, I think, in Napa Valley several years ago. So he's going to tell us about why the repeatable sales process is dead, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Gary. Hello, as Gary said, my name is Jason Reichl. I'm the CRO of a company called TrustLayer. We are an insurtech that makes sure that the commercial world out there that's being built is insured properly and everybody's taken care of. What I'm going to talk about today is about the repeatable sales process. As a CRO, that's sort of what you are brought in to do, is create a repeatable sales process. I have been basically every role under the sun in tech. I have been a CEO of a company. I have been a head of product. I have seen every aspect of the business, and only one job hasn't really changed, which is the CRO or Chief Revenue Officer job. Um, and it's always about building a repeatable sales process. And I have come to the conclusion that process is not really as solid as it once was for a number of reasons we're about to talk about. So the first thing I want to talk about is over the last 10 years, how things have shifted. There's three primary areas here. Is one, everyone's heard of the challenger sale if you're in sales. It's the idea that the biggest enemy of a salesperson is status quo. Well, those same exact people have found that's actually not the biggest enemy of a sales team is the status quo. Instead, what it is fear of messing up, which has been exacerbated by the pandemic. So, fear of messing up, or FOMU, is this idea that over 60% of your deals will never actually go to closure, even if you're talking to the right people, even if they're motivated to move away from the status quo or motivated to move away from a competitor because of uncertainty. And because of uncertainty, and because people are so good at hiding uncertainty, it actually makes the sales cycle much, much more difficult. And the stat that I pulled up here is 60% of people don't buy because of indecision, which is a big number. So like we're all fighting over about 36% of any sales, where people are actually against the status quo, where they are not frozen by indecision. And I think that's a big thing that we're not talking about right now in sales. And there's actually a great book about this called The Jolt Effect that I recommend everyone reads. The second thing is the rise of Rev-Ops. So through the rise of Rev-Ops, teams have seen 36% more revenue off each client, which is an imperative because only 15% of sales, 15% has dropped from net new business. So we needed mechanisms to actually get more LTV out of each of our customers because new business is down. And the most predictable version of any of these pipelines is net new business. For prove to me that if you spend $1, you get $1.50 out, right? But with net new business being down so much across the board in tech and almost every other industry, you have a lot less of a repeatable process. And the last thing is basically one of the main ideas of a repeatable sales process is that you understand how to delight a customer. But more than ever before, in a survey that was done last year by Salesforce, 86% of customers say they're disappointed after they buy something. So we aren't even being given the opportunity to delight a customer, which means that you can't even really build a process that shows the customer how to be delighted. And so all of these three factors are going into the sales process being dead. When we move forward here, what's the hot take mean? And I've sort of been talking about this as we go. But you have to create a certainty for your customers, make recommendations, be a trusted advisor, listen for signals. When you are a trusted advisor, you can train people how to do this, but it becomes less about a standardized process and less about certain channels acquiring at a certain rate, and more about an individual experience, a more bespoke experience to your prospects. New business will not make you hit your numbers. You must be expanding your product and team offering. So I would say that one of the closest things to a repeatable sales process that's out there now is by expanding and upselling into your existing teams. These are areas that were not repeatable in the past, and most organizations didn't even really do this very well. But that's where the paradigm is shifting. When there's a net reduction in net new, then people are moving to upsell and cross-sell and expanding their product as a way of servicing their customers. This is an area that really could be invested in. And then last, customers not impressed with your handoff processes. So when I talked about that third point there around that 86% of people are not delighted by your repeatable sales process, essentially they're not impressed by all these handoffs that we've built to build a conveyor belt, to build a Ford assembly line for the customer, right? And so they're not opting in to that process. They can spot the top of the funnel actions from a mile away, and they know that they're getting pushed down that conveyor belt. So in practice, what should you do? So focus on reducing indecision. The Jolt Effect is a great book that goes into this. Quickly, there's 3 reasons that people don't buy from indecision. First one is around, I don't want to look stupid. The second one is, I don't have enough information, because there's a wealth of information and it's partly our fault that we created all this information. And the third is that someone doesn't want to take the political responsibility if they're wrong. So these are the 3 kind of indicators of indecision that you should be looking for. And there's methods and frameworks for how sales teams can navigate these successfully and outperform their old selves. So this indecision thing is going to be a big thing. It's going to be the kind of next sales thing that people are talking about, I believe, because what it allows you to do is have outsized results, sometimes double of what your previous conversion rate was. Hire a quota person in customer success to act as your account manager is the second way that I would get around this, is start to streamline the customer engagement process, start to make that predictable. And when you make that predictable, I think you'll see you're able to hit the quota on a regular basis. And then cross-train and understand that silos are coming to an end. So customers don't want the processes. So if you're not already on the RevOps train, I would say get on it. And if you're not going to get on it because you work at some huge company, or you don't work in tech and you work for some financial institution, and they're not going to allow for a RevOps team to come in, at least cross-train those people, because the customer, the way that they're delighted is that the marketer knows as much as the salesperson, as much as the CS person, as much as the CEO of the company. And everyone in your company is sort of breaking down silos and breaking down these places where customers typically get stuck in the process, right? So in short, people don't want to be on a conveyor belt. People don't want to be part of your repeatable sales process. They want to feel comfortable. They want to feel safe that you're thinking about their best interest, and that you're helping them reduce this indecision, this FOMU that people are feeling after the pandemic, and probably for the foreseeable future, because next year the content that's out there about these different software choices, all this stuff, are going to triple, and every year after that they're going to triple, and it makes people's buying decisions very difficult and a lot of pressure on them. So I would stop focusing on your internal and stop focusing on your repeatable sales process. Instead, I would focus on the customer and their buying experiences. You need to meet the customers where they are. I know I'm on the Breadcrumbs show, but this is also a plug for why I think their tool is so amazing, because people leave these digital signals that you need to capture and understand. And you need to be looking at where your customer is and how they want to engage. And then what can you do to reduce that indecision so that they don't fall into that 60% that just won't even move, even if they have the money and decision-making power to do it. In sales, the worst thing you can hear from a customer isn't no, it's I need to think about it. This is from Matthew Dixon and Ted McKenna, the writers of the Challenger Sale and the Jolt Effect that I talked about. Really interesting book, and I really think it's going to define sales for the next 10 years. Q&A.
Awesome, Jason. Thanks so much, bud. Interesting as usual. I think the thing that stuck out to me the most was this idea of your prospects and or customers feeling like they're on a conveyor belt.
Yes.
Very powerful kind of analogy, I think. Is the problem that perception or that feeling that they have, or is it the underlying reasons that they feel that way, right?
It's
Like
the underlying reasons they feel that way. I don't think it's a perception. I think we all know the handoff that if we experience buying software, pretty much buying anything that is not a consumer good in the world of tech.
Yeah.
And I think that you're very aware of where you are in the funnel. And I think that, once everyone knows that the macaroni and cheese is made with chemicals and not actual cheese, it kind of dilutes the flavor of the macaroni and cheese, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's where we are as a team, is that everyone is doing the exact same thing. Everybody's after this repeatable sales process. Everyone's after this experience that delights their customers, yet nobody is actually not nobody, few are innovating in the space that is actually important there.
Yeah, and I think that ties into obviously your other really strong point is this FOMO idea, right? This fear of messing up. Um, like I guess as an operator, right? Like you've developed teams, you've run businesses, kind of very practically or tactically, how do you help people get over that fear?
Yeah. So first, you have to learn you have to train your team, your sales team, to hear the signals of fear of messing up. Customers don't come out and say, "Well, I'm really worried if this doesn't go well, that my job will be in jeopardy." They're never going to say that to you, right? So you have to listen between the lines, and you have to have sales reps who understand the difference between okay and yes, awesome, I'm in, which most sales reps can't hear the difference between because they've been trained on the conveyor belt principles of do this thing, then do this thing, and do this thing. So they're not even actively listening to the conversations they're having with customers. So that's the first thing is you have to train them to hear those signals. And they sound a lot like unsure okays. It sounds a lot like the customer making analogies to other products because they don't truly understand your product. It sounds a lot like customers saying, well, I need to do a little bit more research, or can you send me X document that you have? Right. These are all signals in the past when we were on the conveyor belt that seemed like they were good ideas. And truthfully, the fear of messing up has always been there, but nobody's really studied it at scale. And so there's these first studies coming out. And when I went through this Jolt Effect conference thing and was talking to these people, and I said, well, why haven't you guys talked about this before? If we have the Challenger sale and all the status quo stuff. And the reality of it is that we just weren't looking for it. We just thought that most people aren't in the buying mode. But in reality, a lot more people who are engaging in sales conversations these days are trying to buy something, but they get in their own way. And
Right.
so it's not this idea that you have to convince someone that you have the best solution. You actually just have to make them clear and sure. So a tactical thing that you should do there is always be looking at ways to make recommendations, become a trusted advisor. We know we use that term a lot, but become a trusted advisor, make recommendations, and tell them when your product is not the right fit. Even sometimes is going as far as telling them which competitor is the right fit for them. Right. Usually when the time comes, because you were that much of a trusted advisor to them and help them with that indecision process, they'll usually come back to you, and that is very opposite of the repeatable sales process, which is that you hammer everyone over the head.
Right. So you've used that term trusted advisor quite a bit. One of our audience members, Heather, has keyed in on that. So the question, I guess, is like a practical one is does that mean having one trusted advisor all the way through the entire sales process?
I don't think that's 100% what you have to do. It is hard for companies to make these transitions. I think startups and early companies are in the best position to build this into their culture from the very beginning. And I think that could be a value differentiator for your business. I don't think so, but it's always the mindset that what we're doing is educating and inspiring and making recommendations. We're not overwhelming the customer. We're telling them what they should do so that they can trust us like a consultant. I think consultative sale, which is another term that this trusted advisor used to be called, is really actually critical for breaking down this fear of messing up. It's, hey, trust me. That way, if this doesn't go right, you can say, hey, that salesperson told me to do this and X, or, hey, I didn't have to ask for the information because that salesperson said, hey, most customers in your position are worried about X. And you can just nod your head and say yes to that without exposing yourself that you're afraid of messing up. So there's just these very consultative approaches, which are a little bit more dialed down than a BDR just pounding the phone and asking everyone for a meeting, and a salesperson showing up and going to the demo and going, hey, do you want to see pricing? Which is our traditional, more, traditional model.
Right. And it's not about the smoke and mirrors. It's not about changing, an AE's title to a consultant title.
Yes.
It's about the methodology and the approach, right?
Yeah. I mean, you hope that when you show up at the Jaguar dealership, that the car salesman, as much as car salesmen get a bad rap, that they know about the Jaguars and they're excited that you're going to buy one, and they're helping you make the decision because you're new and they have the experience. And that experiential place for your sales team to come from is very, very important in this new sales era.
Okay. And so, Jason, are you working on this at Trust Layer? And if so, how's it going?
It's going well, and yes, we are working on it at Trust Layer because the industry has had such a bad experience. Insurtechs, because it's an insurtech company, traditionally insurtechs have come into insurance world and said, "Hey, you guys are an archaic industry, and you don't understand how to use technology, so we're just going to crush you." And then those companies fail dismally. And we've taken a different approach by partnering and working and making recommendations with technology in order to become that trusted advisor to our customers and really expand it to a partner network. So I think we're doing this okay. We could always be doing it well, and it's something that we'll continue to train our teams on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. We're exactly on time. Good job. Interesting as always. Best of luck on this journey at Trust Layer. If anybody listening is interested in catching up with you, digging in on the topic, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, reach out on LinkedIn. It's a LinkedIn / that whole thing, Better Jason. And I am always willing to chat, or you can text me at 415-731-3318, which is my GTM hotline that people text me questions at, and I answer them. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. It's time to break for lunch. I hope you guys have something tasty to nibble on. Keep in mind that there is a speed networking session available at 12:45. Hopin is a great platform for that feature alone. I would definitely check it out. And then feel free to join any one of the stages at 5 after 1 Eastern time. We have a whole slate of additional speakers this afternoon that I don't think you'll want to miss. Thanks for joining, and see you all soon.
Cheers. Thank you.